Hey y'all, it's Natalie for Wow Embossing today, and I am creating this 12 by 12 layout of these photos of my son in front of this really fun, bright, colorful mural. So I decided to go all out, and to add to going all out, of course, I'm going to put glitter embossing powder on my page. So I have these Mente chippies, and this is like a dream catcher, and I have a couple of feathers there. And so I'm inking them up with my Wow Embossing ink pad, and I am going to add Sunset Boulevard embossing glitter on top of these chippy pieces. You can see they're kind of delicate, and so a couple of the feathers fell off, but when I put it back onto my layout, I'll just glue it all back together. So there you see the Sunset Boulevard, and it's this really fabulous bright orange with lots of lovely glitter that heat sets as like a really nice gold sheen to it. So of course, as per usual, I'm going to do 2 coats because it's always better with 2. I use my tweezers to pull up the little chippy pieces, and I'm going to heat set them with my Wow heat embossing gun. So I let it heat up for just a moment, and I hold them in place with my tweezers and go into heating mode. And it just takes just a moment, and then I will let them cool down and ink them up again for a second coat of the heat embossing powder. You can see there's kind of gold glitter everywhere, but that's how I like it. That's how I live my life. There's a close-up shot. Here it's coming back in a sec. There it is. I'm really happy with how that looks, but again, a second coat always just really improves the process. So I'm just going to stick it down onto the ink pad again and add a second coat. Sometimes you can tell a real big difference, and this time I couldn't tell that big of a difference, but it just makes the texture of it feel nicer as well. It gives it the really nice sheen. So I zoomed in a little bit so you can see all the lovely glitter just really melding together nicely there. It's very beautiful. I'm going to pull in those other feathers. So it's a really nice gold color there. Again, these are from Mente. They have really fabulous chipboard, and I think I always use my heat embossing powder on them. So it's my favorite way, I think, of using heat embossing powder. So I went with this really old crepe paper Wild Heart collection. It's very nice and tropical, and I put out this really bright doodlebug hot pink cardstock. I thought I was going to do like a little pullover of the paper. This was a little bent up, but once it sits in the album, it'll get nice and squashed down. So I'm putting 4 photos on this little square of paper, but I did need to break it up a little bit with all the darkness and brightness, so I'm just going to stick it down onto this nice creamy white background paper that has a little bit of black accent to it, and I'm going to back the center square with that, as well as use strips of that same paper to give a very tiny border around the pink cardstock, and that way I'll just have that nice bright white-ish cream stopping point, resting point for the eye. I thought about using that same paper to back the photos, but I didn't really have enough left, and so I just chose a regular cream piece of paper from my stash that actually matched really nicely. So I have all the little pieces around the edge, and that is just perfectly what I was envisioning. So I'm going to snip off the edges and stick them down onto the paper that I gutted, because I'm only using the one piece of paper. Again, this is a really old collection by Crepe Paper. It's called Wild Heart. But I actually really love the way that it kind of goes with these photos, the mural that my son was standing in front of. But I meant for this page to be a lot. It's a lot. It's bright. But you know what? I'm a lot too. So it really just goes with the personality. There it is, and I'm happy with how that looks. Loving that. It's going to be nice and layered up. Off screen, I will put all of those photos onto some cream cardstock, and now we're going to work on the title. The title is going to be Vacay mode. So I die cut the word vacay with a pretty large alpha die, and I use vellum. And so I'm going to do an ombre effect and ink it up with the Wilted Violet Distress Oxide. And you can use Distress Oxides to heat emboss. You don't need to add additional ink with those. And so I'm going to use my ink blender, and I'm going to add the wilted violet onto the bottom, probably 2/3 of the letters. And then I'm going to go in while they're still wet, and I'm going to sprinkle this Amethyst Galaxy Wow Embossing glitter. And it's a really lovely like eggplant purple with silver glitter in it. And so I'm going to sprinkle that on about the bottom 1/3 of these alphas, and it'll be a really lovely glitter ombre look for my title. And so I am actually super thrilled with how this turned out, and I will definitely be using this technique again. I love how you can still see the pop of the purple ink sticking out, but then you have the lovely glitter. Super thrilled with this. So when you're heating up vellum, it's very thin and delicate. So I'm showing you right here, I'm using the low setting. That's the beautiful thing about the Wow embossing gun, is that it has 2 settings, a high and a low. So I use the low and I heat from behind. So you can see how quickly all of that embossing powder melted. Because it's only blowing out on the low setting, I do need to just be a little more careful about where I'm aiming it and making sure that it gets all of the glitter. But you definitely don't want to turn it up too high, because it will scorch the vellum paper. So keep it on the low setting and heat from behind, and it works so perfectly. So I'm super thrilled with how that's looking. And with these, you definitely only need 1 coat of that heat embossing powder, because it was supposed to look imperfect anyway, but I think it looks perfect. So let's see what's next. We're going to start assembling the page. So I'm just nothing stuck down. I'm just moving things around, seeing how I'd like to add everything down, where the title's going to go. I decided to do a little bit of journaling that I'm going to put into strips on that same cream paper that I backed the photos with. So I will print that out off screen. I used a purple cardstock to cut the smaller word for the title. So it's going to be Vacay Mode is the name of the title, or is the title. So that's the small, lighter purple color. It kind of matches the ink color that I put on the vellum. So I like the way that looks. And whoa, sorry about that. There we go. So now you can see I have our inked up our heat embossed dream catcher there. I'm going to use some purple twine and double it up, and I'm going to tie it through the loop at the top of that Mente chippy piece, and just do a bow, and so it adds a really nice amount of texture and also ties that purple color into that large eye-catching piece of embellishment. So I'm going to start sticking the photos down and layering them up a little bit, and making sure that I have room to put the title as well as all of the journaling strips. So yeah, we're gonna be done with this fairly quickly. Off camera at the end, I do add in, I heat emboss with that same Sunset Boulevard, a little slice of an orange chippé that came from a different sheet, like a summer kind of sheet. Because I needed a visual triangle, and I end up only doing 2 pieces on screen. So you'll see what I mean in the final photos, as well as I used some sequins from Picket Fence Studios called Razzle Dazzle, but they were the absolute best colors because they totally matched the mural that he was standing in front of. They have the bright pink and turquoise and purple and orange, and I was so excited about them. So you'll see those in the final shots too. Speaking of the final shots, you can see all the detail shots on the blog today. I am over there with all the details on how this page came together, as well as the detail shots, if that's important to you, but you will also see them at the end of this video as well. Let me know if you have any questions down below, and I would love it if you'd pop over to my channel and follow me. I'm just at Natalie Dill over there on the YouTube. There I go, adding in the little journaling strips, and loving the way that looks. Just got this little story told about how much my kid loves Vacay, loves it, is excited about every single second of it, the hotel, everything. So I am going to use that same purple twine to tie together the tops of these 2 feathers and add them as an embellishment. Since I had the title kind of going off of that center square, I want the embellishment to go off the center square to kind of tie in with that and show that it was a meaningful choice that I meant to do. Check out these additional embellishments that I added on the final photos, and we're going to call it a layout. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, y'all.